Alright, Diablo players, let's talk about the top 5 plus best things that got added into Vessel of Hatred. Well, within the past few weeks, I've seen a lot of criticism from the game. I wanted to go ahead and make a positive video talking about the things that I actually really liked that we got in Vessel of Hatred. I'm going to go and kick it off with the addition of Runewords. Now, at the end of the day, I don't feel like that they are similar in the sense to a Diablo 2 Runeword. They are kind of more like this thing where we get some sort of ability from another class. I like that idea, and even though I feel like the current iteration of them can be improved upon quite a bit, we have a lot of really cool things later down the line, potentially with some other builds that can make these the actual part of the damage. And I think that that will be something that we will see later down the line. Opening up the doors to creativity really comes down to Runewords in the game, and who knows what the future will hold with these. So I think this addition of, even though again they're not like Diablo Runewords where like we originally had in Diablo 2, I think the concept is still a really cool idea. The next thing I want to talk about that Vessel of Hatred I think did relatively well is the scale of the map. Even though in the end game we don't really engage with it as much, it depends on, like, you know, is the hell tide in the area or not, but the scale of the map is quite nice, and I really liked the visuals of the game, and I think that they did a pretty good job of making this area feel brand new. If you look at some of the areas in the campaign, if you guys want to watch my full playthrough, I have it already uploaded, but some of the areas that you would go to felt a lot more vibrant in the colors, and I really think that that is something that Diablo was kind of lacking. Everything was kind of this washed out sort of gray to give you kind of that dark feeling, whereas in Nahantu, the area is a lot more bright, and I think it's better and easier on the eyes. And again, it felt like a completely new region. So it comes down to kind of like the map essentially, where it definitely feels like they could incorporate more of it. I would like to see us be able to go to these other areas, and even the Easter eggs from the experience of checking out how people unlock that kind of like cow area, not necessarily cow level, which is actually a really cool thing that I want to also plug in. There's going to be a lot of links that I'm going to be talking about in this video for extra content in case you guys want to check out more in depth what I'm about to go ahead and show off. But I think this is a really cool thing because it does definitely look quite nice. And again, I wanted to make a positive video because I've been criticizing the game just like a lot of other content creators, but there are really good things that I think that we need to applaud Blizzard for. So another thing I wanted to mention I thought was a really cool addition comes down to the Citadel. Now, while the Citadel isn't something that you're going to farm consistently again and again, I think the iteration of this was quite cool, where we had an area to go to where we actually have to play with the team, because this is an always online game. I'll be honest, I actually ended up playing more of the game solo than I did with people, but with this you actually have to play with people, and I think that they could do some really cool things in the future, maybe with clans. But the thing that I really liked with the Citadel is it incorporated some sort of a teamwork, and on top of that, it is a mechanic where you're going to have to learn. It wasn't go over here, just keep on one-shotting every single thing because I'm playing the Spiritborn. There was a mechanic where you actually had to learn. You're like, you know, I didn't know what to do. The very first time I was going in, probably one of the most fun experiences. Now, I did bring some people from the stream in because they haven't done this Citadel. I'm like, okay, I could show you guys how to do it, because you definitely need someone that knows what they're doing if you actually want to complete it. If it's your very first time, you may die a couple times, and that is part of the learning process. So I think the Citadel was a great addition to the game, and I'm not sure if I really want this to be a form of the endgame content to farm. I'm curious to know how you guys feel about it. For me, I think the setup was actually quite good, where it's like you kind of do it once, you get the cosmetic, and then that's it. You don't have to repeat doing the Citadel over and over again, because eventually people will learn it, which I think is okay. If they make this a form of endgame content later down the line, I don't think that that's a bad thing. But if it was something that you had to consistently farm again and again, like let's say they made this the only spot to drop mythic items, I think some people would get frustrated, because as someone that maybe isn't able to play in a group, that could be a huge barrier to entry, because when you get random people, sometimes they just suck in video games. And with this, it's something that they have to learn. Is it their fault they don't know the mechanics on the very first time? Not really, because, you know, it's something that you had to look up. You probably died to a couple times. I like the Citadel in terms of its design, that we don't have to farm it. Later, again, if they make this a form of like something that we can farm, I mean, it'll kind of break up doing like 1,000 times of the pit, right? So, hey, that could be kind of a cool thing to consider. Next up over here, I really like the visuals of this like game. I wanted to go and highlight like the difference in the colors. We have that bright like orange red for Jaguar. We have the poison with the centipede, like, and then we have like the blue eagle skills. I think they did a pretty good job in terms of separating the colors with the class. And I also wanted to applaud them for giving every single class multiple brand new passives, a Paragon node for every single one, although this is, I'm trying not to criticize it too hard, but most of these are just damage numerical changes, and it's just like a numbers game, but at least they added a bunch of stuff. But the thing that I do want to applaud them for really is that every single class got a new skill. So even if you didn't buy the expansion with the newest update, you had some sort of new toy to play around with, except for I guess the sorceress, because well, unfortunately, because it has a maximum of 6 familiars, you kind of killed it from a build. But with like things like Dance of Knives, this was really cool. Soul Rift, Necromancer was cool. I really actually like the Stoneburst Druid. This is actually one of my favorite things to actually play. Out of the new skills. That and like Dance of Knives were really fun. And then there's like Throw Barbarian, because Barbarian didn't really have a throw skill, so it was kind of cool to have another way to play the Barbarian, and this is one of the best builds. In fact, I really felt like they should have tried to push these to be all of the like the S tier best builds, and while that could happen in the future, I mean, at least Mighty Throw is definitely one of like the best Barbarian builds. Dance of Knives was super OP with like Victimize. It did get nerfed, but hopefully in the future we could see some buffs to Dance of Knives, and they have been actually buffing it in more recent updates where like it doesn't like fall off as early. But that was really cool. I think that if we can get more expansions with the game, which obviously we're getting, because, well, spoilers here, just as a heads up, we are going to get another expansion. So it's cool to see that every single class will get something new to play with, and I think that that would be cool to see more than one skill. I mean, obviously, yeah, it'd be cool to get like 10 new skills for every single class. Realistically, will that happen? I don't know. But from the standpoint of just getting content from the older classes, I think that's cool. Even though pretty much everyone and their grandma right now, including myself, we're all playing Spiritborn. So I'll give you guys some Druid gameplay back when we were all running Landslide. But really cool to see if we get some new classes, passives, skills. I would like to see that in the future as well. Another thing I want to give him credit for, and this is actually a really cool design. I know that at the end of the day, we're all playing Quill Volley, but there are some really cool design uniques in the game. Having things that are really easy to tag for beginner players, like with Harmony of Ebiwaka, you can make your skills count as basically extra skills, and then you get more damage per skill type. So when we add like all of these things, you get all these multipliers. But I think it's kind of a simpler way to play the Spiritborn in the idea and the identity of a druid. So what I mean by that is that like if you play druid, it's kind of hard to do bear, nature magic skills, but like it's so easy with Spiritborn. They made it like very beginner friendly, easy, and accessible, and I think that that was a really good idea because, well, the druid just kind of has some problems with that, and it's more so just like a better version of like the druid's identity in here, but I think that they did a pretty good job on that, and plus like all the items for this class are really good. We have awesome items that I know some of these may not see some play right now, but I look at the design standpoint from the viewpoint of a content creator that likes to play other builds, and on top of that, learning builds now can actually open up the doors for future builds later when they add another item that can maybe combo with a build, and items like Jess and the Shell over here make it so you're going to get extra cooldown reduction. Or if we get some nerfs to key passives, this could be a good thing in the future as well, because it's going to give you a bunch of HP, but it like drains it. Now, if you were to play something like Low Life, you can maybe enable this through that. There's a lot more play with some of the uniques here, and I think they did a pretty cool job of some of the uniques. Again, I understand they're not super meta in every category, and even items like the Craze God, converting damage types is pretty cool. Whenever you take direct damage, it's considered poison damage, but then you can just max out your poison res and then get the maximum poison resistance, and then you just take a lot less damage. Even though there's like gloves that kind of do this, I think the idea of like getting a lot of damage reduction and then converting damage is something that I like in action RPGs. If you played Path of Exile or other video games that can let you convert damage, Torchlight, I think that's a cool idea to convert damage to one type, then all of the tags, it would be poison, fire, whatever. You have like cool ideas for different diversity in builds, and I really like that idea. And even something like the Prime Protection offers you extra dodge chance while moving, and maybe you can make a build that's all about moving. We kind of had that Evade Eagle build that saw some play in the earlier stages, even though it did get nerfed. I like, again, things that we haven't seen before that you can maybe try to make a build around. Like this one's giving you a massive extra amount of damage after you dodge, so you want to try to build a dodge build, but then also it gives you the ability to, after you stand still, granting you unstoppable. So that can maybe have perma unstoppability once you are in like combat and you're consistently fighting a boss. You now have perma unstoppability, and I like that. I like being unstoppable forever because, well, crowd control is never fun in action RPGs. I know you could just run the guerrilla thing, and once you get enough resolve stacks, your perma unstoppable. So that's another way to do it, but I like some of these ideas. And even though this item is arguably pretty terrible, at least they tried to make like our evade is now an ability, which is kind of like how the sorcerers can now have teleport as an enchant. You can like just use your evade as teleport, and then you can also get a damage multiplier, even though this thing does give you plus ranks to soar. And realistically, is this going to be a build in the future? Who knows? But I like the idea of trying to convert a mobility skill into a damage dealing, and then we can maybe have this build in the future once we get our cooldown long enough or low enough, we would be able to teleport around and just keep on spamming soar. Could open up the doors for something cool. And I know that everyone's probably seen Raw to Keep It Lick It, but I kind of want to talk a little bit more about this, which has to do with the idea of converting your skill into a basic skill, because there's a lot of things that say like your basic skills do this, and I like that idea more than anything. I know this thing has like so many other things where it's like when you're at maximum vigor, you can cast this and it's going to drain all of your resource, which we've seen before in action RPGs. I know with like Meteor, there's one in D3 where it like drains all your resource and you get a big multiplier, right? But then on top of that, it's the ability for the core skills to actually hit twice, so they actually realize that like if you don't have that on an item, it makes certain things bad, but you can convert other non-core skills to core skills. So it really comes down to like just really cool ideas for the uniques in here. And again, converting to basic skills opens up the doors for, you know, like the rapid aspect or any of the other ones that would revolve around basic skills, right? You have Moonrise. There's probably a bunch of other ones. But on top of that, allowing us to play Banished Sword's Talisman was really cool. Again, this reminded me more of like the Rogue, even though this is like pretty OP and maybe this wasn't intended. I still had a lot of fun playing with Banished Sword's Talisman. It'll probably get nerfed, but this was an item that I always thought was really cool, that if you could proc it every single time. And well, you can now do it every single time on the Spiritborn. And then there's things like the Midnight Sun, which actually allow you to never really have to spend resource. Like you're basically at infinite resource because this converts it to basic also. But the fact that you could, in theory, just kind of play with this item, because more likely this is going to get nerfed, right? But the Midnight Sun allowing you to kind of have infinite resource this, and like, you know, let's say Ring of the Starless Skies, that would really help out with the resource, and I think that that is quite cool. And there's a lot of like unique rings that would give you some sort of passive effect from another skill, and there's a lot of items like that in this, where like you just get the Pestilence Swarms orbit around you, you get something cool. And again, even though I know this isn't meta and doesn't deal damage, if they start buffing certain things, this could be pretty dang cool. You also get a lot of movement speed with this, which normally doesn't roll on rings, and that's kind of the identity of a unique. It rolls things that you normally wouldn't have. And then you have maybe the idea of making a Pestilence Swarm that like spawns in front of you every 10 seconds. Now, I know it's not the most meta, but again, it's kind of cool for the identity of the character. And then you have like the achievable passives, and because it converts all of your skills, this is what I was saying, like it becomes like a cooler version of the Druid. Another thing that I actually thought was a cool idea, and I'm really curious to see what they do in the future with the hired mercenaries. Later in Diablo 3 had this thing called Emanate, where we were able to equip items from our mercenary, and then we were able to get some of the powers that we would equip, because some uniques in the game, they're pretty cool, but like it's just really not good enough to sacrifice that slot. But if we throw on the mercenary, and then we would get that unique power, or if we added something like the Kunai's Cube, I think that would be cool too. But I like the mercenary system in terms of like the identity of like we get this companion that follows you. However, the thing that I would really like to see change in the future if they decide to do this is I want my mercenary with me 24/7. I really like Diablo 2's idea of like I always have my mercenary. And D3 we kind of had it where, oh, if you play with people, well, you just don't get the mercenary. It's like, well, this is the new mechanic. Why don't we just have this? But I like the idea of we can get some sort of extra bonuses on stats. Maybe you just need to reach that 1,000 armor, and these can kind of help you out. And I like the reinforcement system a lot too. It's really cool to have this button where like we can push it, or I mean, it's just going to automatically activate in most cases, right? Where we get the mercenary to kind of come out. Like if you've ever played like any fighting games, it's cool to see like the, you know, tag in sort of mechanic where they come in, they do the thing, and then they peace out. I like that idea also, but I think that it would be really cool to have the mercenary with us permanently, and I would like to see us have like a complete inventory, so if we would want to play solo with our mercenary could actually deal damage. That's something that I'm more hopeful for in the future. Perhaps like right now, their idea is we're going to release it, we're not going to make it super OP because we don't want, you know, the mercenary to solo the game, but I think that it's actually a cool idea to have the mercenary be powerful enough to actually solo the game's content. If you look at Diablo 2, there's a lot of interest in mercenary builds, and I think it's more on the creative side. Maybe they can make a unique item that says like, all of your stats are now transferred to your mercenary, and your mercenary stats are now on you. So then you become the support, you buff the mercenary. It just would open up the doors for other things, and I think that that is kind of cool. But as far as like all of the content overall, as far as the campaign goes, I'm gonna keep this video in the more positive side of things. I did think the campaign was lengthy enough. It didn't feel like a very quick 1 hour, we were done with it. But as far as like the end game goes, I would really like to see more end game content in this game. I think that that would be a great form of newer forms of content, and they are buffing the Undercity. I think we kind of lack the amount of tributes that is required to really engage with this mechanic, and most people are probably playing a lot of the pit versus doing the new mechanic. But I think the idea and the identity of this is pretty cool, that we can kind of target farm with the brand new Undercity mechanic. So hopefully that can be looked at in the future. And speaking of the future of the game, I really want to give them some credit. I understand the game isn't in the best of state in terms of stability, but it's better that we're still getting all these updates than nothing. I mean, look at how many updates we've got in the past like week over here. November 7th, 5th, 1st, 30th, 29th, 24th. Like, this game is constantly getting updates, and I can't say that they don't care about the game. And I really feel like, even though I have addressed lots of complaints, my whole goal with complaining is to let Blizzard know what these problems are. As a Diablo partner, they're supposed to watch our videos with the hashtag, and so hopefully they can see these and then actually fix them. And then we also have like these like group meetings, and this way I can also inform you guys how I feel about the game. And I do bring up some of your guys' ideas when we do these like private Diablo meetings. Those I can't like stream or record for you guys, but it's to let you guys know what the problems are. That way you guys can kind of feel the same way, or let yourself know that like, oh, some people also feel the same way, and hopefully that these things can be addressed in the future, as a lot of quality of life things have actually changed. Remember how we didn't have a gem tab before and everyone wanted it? This is like something that is like universal seen as good, and eventually hopefully we will get some of these changes. But I wanted to go ahead and go over the stuff that I really do like, and I'm curious to know, what did you guys really like about Diablo 4's Vessel of Hatred in terms of like all of the mechanics, or what did you guys enjoy, or maybe what you guys didn't enjoy? Let me know down below, and we'll be having a very a campfire chat very, very soon, and I'll update you guys on that. But anyways, take care guys, have a good one. If you're new here and you'd like to see more, subscribe, turn the bell, and you'll definitely see more. Anyways, take care. I'll catch you in the next video. Check the pin. I'll link some of the videos that I was talking about. But peace out.